Hello everybody and welcome to the first of two preview videos for the two divisions featured in the Siege of Dunkirk Nemesis DLC for Steel Division 2 that is supposed to come out relatively soon, as Eugen is finalizing the work on it, as we are, as always, on an alpha build here that is still work in progress in these previews and that still is subject to change. And yeah, let's go into C.I.A.B.G, the first representation of the Czechoslovaks in Steel Division 2, which is really cool, with the Czechoslovak Independent Armored Brigade group. And yeah, let's go in here. As this is a mechanized formation by type, but as you can see, heavy focus on tanks. Infantry, decent. Artillery, pretty good. Recon, decent. Anti-tank, mediocre. Support, decent. Anti-air, good. And air, pretty small in its types. And yeah, let's, as always, jump into the recon part first, where we have the Humber LRC Mark III as one of the new units that come with this division. A new vehicle, completely fresh, which features a lovely brand on top and a Boyce anti-tank rifle in front. So decentish firepower for 10 hit points, especially if it stays at 10 points. Especially if as it also comes with radio. Speed is okay, not super fast, but decent. Yeah, as a radio vehicle for your artillery, absolutely a good fit, I would say. Like, can scout a bit for you, can be annoying against infantry without anti-tank, or against enemy half-tracks, and can also bring you radio to the front line so that your artillery may hit better. And you have a decent amount of artillery that can take use of that. Then you have the C.I.A.B.G as our first Czechoslovak infantry unit, which also is a pretty unique division unit, as it brings 12 men to the battlefield for 25 points, brings an MG34, brings a Molotov, 4 Thompsons, and 7 Lee Enfields. And yeah, it's a pretty decent unit. It's really one of the better recon units out there. Molotov gives it nice 60 firepower, Thompson's help out there as well. Availability is mediocre, you only get one card. Bedford, obviously also not the fastest of transport, so as a recon unit, it's not there for the fast recon at the beginning of the game, but it is obviously there for the recon and force, as it has decent firepower on the long range with the Lee Enfields and the MG34, and it has decent fire on the long range with on the short range with Thompsons and the Molotov. So really decent unit for 25 points. Then you have the Daimler OV, which is Daimler with a 2-pounder 40mm gun without HE shells, only a Bessa. So mediocre unit for 25 points, good rate of fire on it, decent penetration, but no HE shells is a big minus, as the Bessa is a decent MG, but you only get one of them, so it's not really giving you much soft firepower, and 75 penetration is not quite enough to be threatening to any medium armor most of the time, as it also only has 1250 meter range. So a cool looking unit, but not quite an amazing one out there. Decent, cool looking unit though. Makes you kind of wish there would be smoke launchers in Steel Division 2, with the smoke launchers here represented on the side. As we then move on to the first French unit in the division, the French augmentation to this formation so that it has some infantry to fight the German defenders in Dunkirk, with the FFO Fuse Marines. And yeah, these guys, also 25 points, a lot less manpower, a lot less firepower though than the C.I.A.B.G. Come with one veterancy as well, come with the same availability. The smoke is nice, the Panzerfaust is nice as well, but I don't quite see them being competitive here. The DMA is at least slightly faster, but I still see struggling to see the point here, especially as the next unit at least is a decent, gives you a Piat as anti-tank, so as an anti-tank infantry, I mean, yeah, the next one is only a 4 hit point unit, so that's the problem. The smoke is nice as well, but they don't quite have the firepower to profit from the smoke as an offensive tool, and as a purely defensive tool, fine for 25 points, it's a bit too much to ask for. But still a cool looking new unit for sure, and can give you some interesting opportunities still. Next unit is your standard P.I.A.B.G recon, which can be helpful to be recon that also can get behind enemy lines and shoot transports or tanks that come up the road. So yeah, can be useful. 25 points, maybe slightly too expensive, but decent recon unit as is, with decent with relatively poor availability actually. And then we have the M5A1 Pushkumini, the first Czech crewed tank in this tab, with some radio. So decent light tank here, 40 points, obviously quite a bit for the firepower that this provides, but 3 Brownings now, so good CQC firepower with, or like closer range soft firepower with the 3 Brownings. And the radio is really helpful to get your artillery on target. Yeah, decently fast and decent availability as well, so decent light tank if you want to have that in your light tank tab to maybe accompany a bigger tank push. But the other option there is also quite potent, the Cromwell 4, as that offers you radio as well, so 3 different radio vehicles here in the recon tab, which all give you nice different choices here. The HE value of the 75mm, pretty decent. It has okay penetration, armor obviously relatively low for a medium tank. Radio is nice, speed is fantastic, the 2 Bessers give it decent firepower there as well, and the availability here is good as well, so yeah, bit of a tough choice in my eyes between these two, but nice to see that you have some choices here for the somewhat limited recon tab, but still fair one. I would most likely go with these, the Humber and the Cromwell as my recon, potentially one of the other recon infantries as well. And then we move on to the infantry tab, which is rather limited, as the Czechs didn't have the most infantry themselves, and the French and British reinforcements are nice, but they are not that numerous either. So we start with Converted Gunners UK, which we already know from Task Force 45. 15 men with 13 Lee Enfields and 2 stands. Decent hit points for 50, like really good hit point, like just a great unit for tanking. No disheartened here, just they don't have much firepower, but they will do the meat shield really, really fantastically well for you. Another 15-point unit is the French FFO Fusiliers. 5 less hit points, but an anti-tank grenade and an MG. It's only an FM24/29, but great combination, I would say. Like, you have some really nice cheap infantry here currently, if the prices stay that way. All on low veterancy, which is an issue, but other than that, great stuff here. And then you get a converted RAF, which go back to 15 hit points, but cost you, and get an MG, a Vickers K-Gun, but cost you 5 points more, and are disheartened. So, not sure if these are worthwhile with the FFO Fusiliers around, but the 5 extra hit points obviously can be quite helpful. So, and the FM24/29 is an automatic rifle, whilst the Vickers K-Gun is LMG with a good bit more firepower in the long range. FM helps out in CQC though. So yeah, interesting options here in the cheap part. Motostrelky are your motorized rifles basically. They have a Piat, they have a Bren, they have Thompsons. Nice to have a Piat infantry here. Also can come in half-tracks, which obviously is helpful as well, especially since the half-tracks are 5 points now. So this is a nice combination, I would say. Command FFO Fusiliers are your units and tractions, which come with a really interesting loadout here. 2 MG81s, 3 MAS 36s, and an MP40. So yeah, decent amount of firepower for a leader, especially for a 25-point leader. No radio, no smoke, no anti-tank though, so those are all weaknesses here. But they're kind of your only infantry with double MG, which is interesting to have that in a leader. It's a decent MG as well, from what I would say. Relatively slow firing though, so yeah, not the most amazing most likely, but yeah, it's your only double MG unit, which is kind of weird. It's also your only leader one of 2 leader options, the other one being the Motostrelky Vellital, which have smoke, which have radio, cost 25 points as well. So 2 less hit points for smoke and radio. Interesting trade-off, both having fast transports. I like that trade-off. I would say you most likely end up with one with either or, as you don't have the slots for two commanders most likely, or leaders most likely. But that's interesting. And then you have the Zeniste, which are pretty close to the first Panzeri, first Panzerna flamethrower infantry. That's the period there, as they have one flamethrower, one Bren, and then 4 Thompsons, 6 Lee Enfields, 30 points, so quite expensive. Decent availability, like fantastic availability, though. Only coming in A, but like, yeah. Give you a flamethrower for 30 points, only CQC infantry in the infantry tab. You will have to take them. Like, there's no way around that. Decent unit, but relatively expensive, so you gotta see how you come around that. So yeah, you have a lot of manpower, but this tab is not dealing a lot of damage. That's not its job. The job of damage dealing is, I would say, here. And this is the tank tab, where you have more Stuarts, you have Churchills, you have Cromwell 5s, you have Churchill 6s, and then you have some Cromwell 7s up onward with still decent speed. Obviously the Cromwell 5s are the fast boys though. And yep, 120mm frontal armor though, pretty nice for 65 points. And then you have a Churchill 7 and a Firefly. Also have 3 different leader tanks, so this tank tab, for sure, pretty versatile. You have the fast Cromwells in a good amount of cards here, especially on the Cromwell 5s. You have some slow but heavy hitting for their price Churchills. And then you have the Firefly for some good heavy anti-tank, but you only get 1 card. So you have to really choose wisely, depending on what kind of deck you want to build, where to bring these. Like, that Firefly card is really important. Without it, this tank type would be a lot worse. But the mix of the others, topped with this Firefly, I would say makes this a really solid tank tab and gives you a lot of flexibility also in how you want to build it. So really enjoying this tank tab. It's a lot of fun. Support tab adds on top of this, as you have Churchill 5s, you have Cromwell 6s with 95mm, and you have Cromwell 8s, which are the up-armored version. So 120mm of frontal armor, and currently they still have the high speed. Would expect that to go down to the same speed as the Cromwell 7s, but yeah, this is a fantastic support weapon here. These two, and the Churchill 5 is the slow version of it. Gets you a lot more armor though than the Churchill 6, the Cromwell 6. All have 2 Besas, so yeah, really nice support tanks to go with that tank push. You also get the ACV as a really cool looking commander here. Really, really hot looking command vehicle. Absolutely loving this thing. It looks fantastic. It looks kind of like a World War I tank, no, not gonna lie. Nice antennas in the rear. You get some MG42s, which are obviously really helpful, combined with some Vickers, so decent MG firepower there as well. No infantry support gun, which obviously is always a bit of a weakness of the Western Allies. No small mortars either. Anti-tank is really limited in cards that you can pick. The options are all you need. 17-pounder, 6-pounder, Panzerschreck, Piats for 10 points here. So that's nice. That's where all Piats most likely will go. So yeah, good options here. Panzerschreck is fantastic. With Thompson's lol. Good firepower Panzerschreck there. M1 and 17-pounder obviously both great as well. You get the Morris C8 here, you get the Bedford, you get the Lord Carrier. Over here, yeah, Lord Carrier and Bedford. So good anti-tank, but the numbers of cards that you can take are the issue there. Anti-air, really fantastic. You get a really good mix of small anti-air, including another deck that gets Canadian Tripolstons attached to it. These are fantastic. Currently only the 6 Airborne gets it, and there it's your only bigger AA. Here you get also some Stolen Flag Feelings, some Stolen Flag 41s, you get some Crusader AAs, and you get the 94mm and the 94mm with the Mark 42. And the difference there is, first of all, it has more AP shells, and second of all, on its AP shell, it goes from 25 accuracy to 40 accuracy. So if you want to use your guns as dual purpose, for 5 points you get 15 more accuracy here on the AP shell, which makes it a lot a lot better quality against tanks with 12 rounds per minute on a 190mm penetration shell. Like, that even can be quite threatening to the King Tigers, at least the smaller versions. So a really, really cool gun, and a nice addition to the arsenal of this deck, which gives it a bit more punching power against heavy tanks next to the Firefly and the 17-pounder. So nice to see. Also, obviously, can stop air really nicely. And then we go to the artillery, where you have a decent option of new guns as well. The GPF 155mm is the first one here. Relatively fast firing, 155mm with smoke. Good damage. Radio. Availability is on the low end. 124 here, but has a radio. Then you get this big BL 7.2 inch, which also has a lot of damage, 182mm. Slow rate of fire though, and I would say most likely relatively low accuracy as well. And you can only take these in BNC, common Matadors and Matadors with supply. And then you get the classic Long Tom, classic 81mm mortar and 25-pounders as well. Spotters and artillery leaders from the British as well. So yeah, nice mix here. And then in the air, you get some Czechoslovak Spitfire Recon with Czechoslovak or Czech emblems here. Same with some Spitfire Mark 9s. And then you get some Typhoons and some Spitfire bombers flown by British pilots. And some Mitchell 2 bombers also provided by the RAF with some more 13mm bombs. So yeah, this is the C.I.A.B.G. I'm really, really hyped for this division. This looks absolutely cool and like a bit of a different playstyle. Like, this is for sure not just a copycat division, and it's a nice addition to the Commonwealth roster in my eyes. The Cromwell Churchill mix is something that we don't have. The anti-air tab is cool. The infantry tab is also pretty unique with all that cheap stuff, but no good CQC here. Like, you really will be struggling when it comes to the CQC part. You have to kind of rely on these guys helping you out a bit as well. So yeah, absolutely kind of a must pick when you have a look on the infantry tab. And I'm also really hyped for the other division. And if you're hyped for that as well, keep your eye on the channel. The second video with the defenders, the Dunkirk, who will fight on the other side of this DLC. The Times Dunkirk coming up soon. So keep your eye open there and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. And I hope to see you next time. Bye bye and have a great day.